Hey, sports card collectors and investors. Hope everybody is doing well. It is back to the grind after a long weekend. Hope everybody had a good time. Today I'm going to be talking about one of my recent card purchases. It's one that you might have heard of, a Mike Trout. It was a $900,000 purchase. Just another Sunday for me. Just another buy for me. No big deal. Just kind of slotted it in next to the other ones. Okay, it wasn't actually me that bought it, but that is the card that we're going to be talking about today. And I want to make some comparisons to another collectibles market and just kind of get your thoughts. This is an interesting topic for me because, sports cards, comic books, these all fall under collectibles investing, alternative investments. And so, on the one hand, yeah, $900,000 is eye-popping as far as the amount of money, especially for a modern card. I think for vintage cards, it's with the added scarcity to vintage cards, you could see where it makes sense. But to think a card from 2009 on a player that's still playing, hasn't won a championship yet, in Mike Trout, and granted he's probably the best player in baseball, but still. $900,000 is nothing to sneeze at. So, we have that sale, and actually, that's not the largest sale. It's tied for the largest sale with the Lebron James, Michael Jordan Logoman card that sold back in it sold this year in February. So it tied that, and so just to give you some more clarity, this is a 2009 Bowman Chrome Draft Prospects. BGS 9.5 actually has a subgrade of a 9 on the corners, so it wasn't pristine or anything. It's a BGS 9.5, beautiful card, absolutely awesome card. So as we're looking at this, how does it compare to, I guess, other sales that we've seen? I mean, look, we've got Michael Jordan rookie cards in PSA 10 that are going for anywhere from $80,000 to $90,000. We're starting to see more of these high-end sales. What were high-end sales? I mean, a Michael Jordan rookie card 30 to 45 days ago, I remember making a video on it. That was sitting at 40 to 50K, and it's doubled in just a short 30 days. And it was interesting. It didn't double necessarily, right when the Last Dance documentary started. That's just come in the last couple of weeks. So, I guess it was, the documentary was wrapping up, but. Just interesting on that timing. And then, I guess the question is this a trend moving forward? Will these cards continue to move up? I did notice that, there was one that sold at, I think, $96,000, and then a few more hit the market, I think, to kind of see if they could expand on that. And they did go in that 85 to 90 range, I believe. I don't think that there was a sale that cracked that 96,000. Maybe I'm wrong on that. Maybe there is one that eclipsed that number. But still, it just kind of shows you, is this a new sign of the times? And, it's also such a huge question mark as to, I know we talk about, Gary Vee and some of the high rollers getting into the market. I mean, there's people talking about how they're putting $1 million into sports cards. And you have to wonder how many people are out there doing this. How many people and then how many people are going to be doing it within the next 12 months, the next 2 years. Is this a new fad that's going to be a thing, moving forward? If I'm looking at, if we're comparing this to vintage sales, many people know of the T206 Honus Wagner card. Give you kind of a brief history on that one. There's roughly, they approximate there's about 50 of those cards in existence. The largest sports card sale ever was a PSA 5 T206 Honus Wagner. It sold for $3.12 million back in 2016. So that it would be interesting to see what that card would go for now in 2020 with just how hot the card market is. And the story behind Wagner's card is he was upset. There's kind of some controversy as to whether or not he didn't want his likeness to be sold. But then there was also a part of that story where he didn't necessarily want smoking promoted to kids. And these were tobacco cards, of course. And so that limited the production. They cut the production on it, and that's where you only see about 50 of those that were produced that we know of anyway. And then however many of those were actually graded, you're looking at a few different factors there. So kind of interesting. And then, there was another, the other thing that's comparable to that sale, now not in the $3 million range, but there's Mickey Mantle 52 tops that are in the PSA 8 and above, I believe is what I saw listed. And those are, I think that those are about $1 million is where they had gone for. So really interesting. Yeah, those were sold through Ken Golden of Golden Auctions, and he was quoted saying that in the history of mankind, there's only 2 trading cards that have ever sold for more than $900,000. One is a 52 tops Mickey Mantle in a grade of 8.5 or higher, and the other is a T206 Wagner in a grade of a 2 or a higher. So, it just shows you that there's not that many cards selling at that price. But, that's, again, is this a new trend that's going to be coming? And something that, I just like to look across different collectibles type markets just to see if there's any crossover. And then I'm thinking kind of as we move ahead in time, is this going to be the new normal? I mean, I'm going to make a comparison. It's not apples to apples by any stretch, but if we're talking about high rollers getting into this, the global art market is $64 billion in sales in 2019. And that was a drop from 2018 where it was $68 billion in sales. So the fine art market is massive. Okay, I think sports cards probably fall into it. Even this hot market, it's probably up 1 billion to 2 billion. I don't have any facts behind that, but I remember back in the early 90s during the junk wax era, they estimated it at about 1 to 2 billion, and that was the last sports card boom. And so this one has to be kind of in that range, if not maybe higher. It's tough to track, I think, with all the transactions being just all over the place. It's really difficult, I think, to really know. And so with the global art market, though, I think the big question is this going to be something that the millennial generation buys and the Gen Xers? I'm kind of on that fringe at almost 40 to where, honestly, I would much rather have Michael Jordan rookie cards all day than have a rare painting that's worth $1 million. It's like, would I have a rare painting worth $1 million or 10 Michael Jordan PSA 10 rookie cards? I'll take the 10 PSA 10 MJs all day long. So, and that's just a matter of taste in part too. Collectibles, yeah, they're investments, but there's also that the collectible part of it where we're collectors and you have to care about it and want it. And so I think that's where it's going to be really interesting to see, are the younger generations going to grow up buying art, or is some of that money, the high rollers in the 20-something age group or the teens or the early 30s, are they going to start, those millionaires, are they going to put money into other things? And maybe it's not sports cards and comic books, maybe it's other things, that they're going to get into. But it'll be really interesting to kind of see how that moves forward over the next, 10, 20, 30 years. Is fine art going to be, kind of diminished as just because it's a massive industry? And for those that, come back and say, well, the card market's not mature enough and there's things that need to be improved on with grading and so forth. I get that. But if you think about it, the art market's got the same sort of issues. They've got, there's all sorts of fraud that goes on. There's replicas that are done that are sold as originals. There's restoration that happens. So there's risks attached to all of these things. And there are still huge sales in art, to where it is an original, but maybe was touched up or had some restoration done to it and is still very valuable. So it's not as if, everything just loses all of its value. And really, the $1 million for the, for these cards and the $3 million for the Honus Wagner card, that is just a drop in the bucket for what art sells for on a regular basis. It's just such a small amount. So it'll be interesting. And the same goes for rare comic books, Incredible Hulk #1, or, these are, you see $1 million sale and it's like, wow, that's wild. But think if you're a billionaire and you're buying art at $20 million a pop or something, what's $1 million for, this really rare, cool comic book or card or stamp or coin or whatever it may be. So what are your thoughts on this? Do you think that sports cards and other collectibles could take the place of some of these other things that these older generations, are putting? They might be putting more money towards fine wine, fine art, collectible cars, all these different things, do you think that part of that money will be siphoned into stuff like this? And maybe it's not completely, but maybe it's just to diversify, and just think about the impact that would have on the sports card market if you just siphoned, a couple of billion away from fine art and some of these other collectibles into sports cards. It would be wild, and I think it might actually be happening. We don't have any of the hard data to know that, but you have to assume that it's happening. There's obviously some high rollers that have come in. Are they here to stay? Is it this flash in the pan thing? I want to hear your thoughts. Guys, don't forget to subscribe. We've got videos coming out daily on sports card collecting and investing, and we're excited to keep it going. So stay tuned, and we will see you again next time. Take care, guys.